Tell us about the story in the Mirror about Charles summoning William for a summit. What is that about, Matthew?
So, apparently, yes, that there's going to be a big meeting of the senior royals about the future of the monarchy. Now, again, full disclosure, and I'm sure that many of your viewers and listeners will disagree with me on this, but this is the home of free speech, so I'm not afraid to say that I'm an out-and-out Republican. I think
so is Julia Hartley-Brewer.
There you go. What company I'm keeping these days. My fellow Lib Dems will be thrilled with that, I'm sure. But yeah, so I mean, you know, my view is that totally undemocratic, and there's no defence of it. But we've got them for the moment, and apparently in a few days there's going to be this big summit where the King, the Queen, William and Kate, who apparently are superstars according to Charles, are going to be together in one room. Sipping on coffee, no doubt, brought along by their servants, and they're going to have this discussion about the future of the monarchy. And apparently Charles wants it to be centred around the Commonwealth. And actually, that's really interesting because is there a future for the Commonwealth? I mean, no one seems to want to host the Commonwealth Games,
yes,
which is the big thing that we all see of the Commonwealth every few years. Very successful in Birmingham, absolutely agree with that. But no one seems to want to host the new one. And so is there a future actually for that group of nations? I'm not entirely sure that there is.
Well, it's interesting because King Charles and also his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, were certainly people who, certainly she was someone who really thought the Commonwealth was very, very important. And I think the Commonwealth is a good thing. Obviously, people will call it a hangover from empire and so on, but there are lots of countries that want to join it necessarily. What are your arguments against the monarchy? What do you? I mean, you said you think it's a ridiculous institution, but why? Tell us why.
I don't think we'd start out with it if we were starting the country again.
That's a really good point, actually. But let me just stop you there. Just park that for 1 second. I promise I'll let you come in a second. But I kind of think the royal family is a bit like Trident, in that it's pointless, it's expensive, but getting rid of it would be more effort, would tear the country apart far more than it would make progress. What do you think of that?
I mean, there's no doubt about it that republicanism is a minority interest still in this country at the moment. But every time there's a big and Republic, of which I used to be a board member, have done the figures on this, and every time there's a big kind of royal event, more and more people join Republic and more people become Republicans. So why is that? And I think it's because people do think that it's fairly farcical that we have someone as our head of state who hasn't been elected. Now, I know people will think, oh, President Blair, President whatever. Well, I mean, just look at the Republic of Ireland, who seem to, and you'll know more about this probably than me, Peter, but the Republic of Ireland manages to have an elected head of state that's still a titular head of state that doesn't really have much power, but doesn't have all the family, doesn't have all the hangers-on, and does actually have an electoral mandate from the people of the country that they seek to kind of
lots of countries do that model as well. Germany does that model as well. But I suppose, I mean, I can see the argument for it. I mean, I love the royal family. I think they're great. I also think it's totally absurd. Right. But I kind of love the absurdity as well. And the fact that one of my favourite cartoons ever, actually, in the Daily Telegraph was when, you know, this comes out every year about, you know, the royal family costs every taxpayer 75p or whatever it is, right, the price of a couple of pints of milk. And this guy opens the front door and the Queen's sitting there. He said only ordered a couple of pints of semi-skimmed, you know. But I actually worked with someone in the BBC many years ago who was really, really, really anti-monarchy. I mean, just wouldn't have even had this conversation with me as a reasonable human being. They would have, and he just kept going on and on and on about the BBC. And I looked up how much it was. His name's Robin. I looked up and it was whatever it was, 75p or whatever. And I said, Robin, if I give you 75p, would you stop complaining about the monarchy? And he went, yes. So I got a few coins out and just sort of handed them over. And it was a very, very good investment, let me tell you. Well, that'll all be interesting in terms of that summit.